We read from Galatians chapter 4, verses 18 through 20. Paul wrote, "It is always good to be made much of for a good purpose, and not only when I am present with you, my little children, for whom I am again in anguish of childbirth until Christ is formed in you. I wish I could be present with you now and change my tone, for I am perplexed about you." Oh, the pain of child rearing. When I was young, I did not truly understand the difficulty of raising children. It is truly a noble burden. God has made us parents and stewards of our young ones. It is with much pain that a mother brings them into this world, and it is with much pain that we raise them up. I remember my dad trying to teach me simple algebra when I was young. He was a chief of design for a company that built steam turbines and other power components. He was a man that knew complex mathematics. My mother and father put a small child's desk for me near the grate of our coal-burning central heater, and it was there that my dad struggled to get me to understand simple algebra. You know, the A plus B equals C stuff. Yet I struggled. I remember being in tears, not understanding, but trying very hard, and I sensed my dad's frustration. Years later, after having our own children, I came to understand the anguish of parenthood much better. I had missed the birth of my daughter while I was on deployment in the Army, but I was there with my wife for my son's birth. It was then I better understood the pains of childbirth. Like I say, better, but not fully. However, I do understand that the pains of trying to raise them up to be mature adults who are ready to take on the responsibilities of adults in the world. It was not just in early training, but in training them throughout their lives. Now, Paul looked at those to whom he brought the message of salvation as his children in the faith. When he first presented this message to the Galatians and saw them respond to it with favor, he likened the experience of his anguish for them as a woman transitioning from the pains of childbirth to the joy of embracing the newborn. Yet now Paul was in anguish again. What was the reason for this renewed anguish? Well, it was that their spiritual growth seemed to have been stunned. He stated that he was again in the anguish of childbirth until Christ was formed in them. His desire was to see them mature into Christ's likeness. The problem was that they had allowed the influence of the Judaizers to take them on a detour, so to speak, which was stunting their growth. And Paul wrote this letter with a strong tone because they were following his spiritual detour that would lead them to nowhere. And for this reason, Paul indicated the following. He says and wrote, "I wish I could be present with you now and change my tone, for I am perplexed about you." Paul wrote with a severe tone to them because he was perplexed over their situation. This was much like parents would speak to a child for whom they had much hope, and then saw them making decisions that would sway them from the correct path to adulthood. When I served in the pastorate, someone once asked me what charged up my spiritual or my ministerial battery. And I answered like this: the thing that excites me the most is to see believers grow in Christ's likeness. I did not say it, but conversely, the greatest anguish to me was to see believers who were stagnant in their faith and to see some actually departing for false teaching. Understand the heart of a pastor. He will see every regular parishioner as family, as spiritual children, so to speak, under his care. Realize that his desire is to see his children grow to maturity. Sometimes this means that the words preached will have a strong tone. Sometimes he will be perplexed. His desire is for the good of every believer, that every believer would grow spiritually. knowing that with growth, the believers will experience the great joy of their salvation.